Hello, welcome to the final video. We're nearly there. So this is just I don't know how long it was. It's 20 minutes in this recording. A period of time without the model. Just working on the face, hands, and feet primarily, and anything else that catches my eye. But these were things that I didn't really feel like I had the time to properly capture with the model up. So. I'm just finishing them off. I say finishing, that's I've never figured out how to properly finish a sculpture or a piece of art. It's done when you stop working on it, I guess. So yeah, I mean, with the face, I don't know how much there is to say about it. I'm just doing stuff, really. You can see here I'm working the way that I've been working throughout the tutorial of just carving stuff in, mashing stuff in there, and then softening it out and whatnot. Now I'm thinking more about masses, like I say. So, So here you can see I'm still reappraising the skull shape. I think that's going to change throughout the course of this video. The hair can be kind of a distraction, really. But oftentimes, especially when it's, she has a lot of hair, but when it's falling like this, it'll generally approximate the shape of the skull. And I feel like I lost sight of that a little bit. So here I'm just trying to find it. And then, using this view looking directly up is a view I use a lot, especially when I'm working without the model, to kind of try and keep my, keep track of my symmetry, but also keep track of my depths. Things like the lips, they're essentially, you can wrap them like around a tomato can, something like that. It's that curvature, and always the tendency is to make them too flat, make them on one plane. So I look up a lot, and also. I find when you don't, you end up with one nostril further back than the other, and one brow further forward than the other, and whatnot. So, like the eyes themselves, they're feeling maybe a bit flat now. Obviously, what you can do is you can just stick a sphere in there and wrap them around a sphere, if you want. That's. If you're making a film asset, you'd have eyeball models, and then you just need to make sure that your model, that your sculpted model conforms to those. So I'm just, I'm not doing that here, but you could do it, whatever. But I'm just always trying to think of that spherical shape. And when I'm working from imagination, just basic proportional rules. Like you have this thing of from the chin to the bottom of the nose is a third, then from the nose to the brow is another third, and then the brow to the hairline is another third. Stuff like that. And then here you can see on the lips, like where I want a hard edge to the lips, just drawing in that hard line and then smoothing it out. Always going too far and reining back in, too far, reining back in. Much easier to do that than to try and creep your way up to, to an expressive result. Now just throw it in there, whatever. Making the face a little bit bigger, it felt a bit small relative to everything else. Those eyebrows. I've given them this upward slant. That's kind of painful to look at now. I do that with nearly everything. I guess I have. I guess I have a high tolerance for romanticism. But also there's a sculpture, the Laocoon. It's a Roman copy of a lost Greek original. You can find it in the Vatican Museum. Amazing sculpture and very, very expressive. And the facial expression is of the main guy, the priest in the middle. It's absolutely nuts, and that's been a source of inspiration in a lot of what I do. I mean, basically it means I always bring the eyebrows up in this sort of lugubrious kind of way. I think by the end of this video I'll soften them out a little bit. I'm not sure. I hope that I did. So on the hand, like I said before, I'm, again reappraising the big shapes. I can see the thumb is in a wonkily positioned here, and I'm refining it stupidly. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure at some point I go back and fix that. If not, then well, whatever. Yeah, if I, this is kind of really stressing a point that I've made a bit already. If I go in and I really try and make each finger, then I gotta make sure that they're really good, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with sculpting things well, but given that that's not what this sculpt is about, I want to go in and I want to, describe it so that when you look at it, you're like, yeah, there's a hand there, there's fingers there, and they're made of the following things, bone, muscle, tendon, whatever I'm describing there. But so at a glance you assume everything is there, but it's not distracting. It doesn't have every single little detail in there. Yeah, you see, go in, working a little bit, and then zooming back out, making sure it works with everything else. I find a lot of the time my sort of hands and feet have a tendency to go too big, too small, whatever it is. Sometimes you'll see a really nice sculpt with these tiny, tiny little hands, and and you kind of look at it and think, well, what were you thinking? But it's it's really, it can get really difficult to keep a fresh eye on this thing. So what I try and do is visualize the hand like over the face. Because that's going to be a similar sort of size. The hand's pretty much going to cover the face, and the foot as well. I mean, the foot's going to be bigger. The foot's going to be closer to like the size of the head, sort of thing, the height of the head. So comparative measurements essentially is what I'm saying. Use them a lot. Use them. And especially when you're working from the model. Take a measurement of the head. How big is the head? Right. Take it on an outstretched arm with a pencil or some straight tool in your hand. Measure the size of the head and then compare it. How does that line up to the width of the rib cage? Let's say at the widest point or whatever. It doesn't matter what you're comparing. You just find things. Be creative. Find things that you can compare one to the other. And that's not just for sizes as well, to find the placement of things. So we've got two hands at different heights. Well, actually here we can't see the hands in. Yeah. Say from the front view we can see we could see the edge of this back hand and we could see the front hand. So what's the angle between them? And then compare that to your sculpt. Does the angle line up? Is it the same? What's the angle between the knees? What's the angle between the bony points on the hip? What's the angle between two arbitrary points, the bony point of the elbow and the forehead or something? It doesn't matter what the points are. I mean, bony points are much more easy to find, much more reliable than fleshy points are. Yeah, so just finding these, comparing them, comparing heights, comparing widths, comparing angles. What happens if you take a straight line from the pit of the neck right down? What does that line up with? In a contrapposto like this, you'll generally find from the pit of the neck it lines up with the inner bony point of the ankle. Most of the time you'll find that, and if not, there'll be a reason for it. I mean, that's on a balanced figure, those things will line up if the weight's on one leg. So then check that with your sculpt. You can use, if you use control, like to draw a mask, it's going to draw a rectangle, right? And the edge of that rectangle will be a straight line. So on your sculpt, you can really easily bring a straight line straight down from somewhere. The point of the forehead, anywhere, draw a straight line down from it. What does it hit on the way down? And then on the model, what does it hit on the way down? Very, very nice ways of keeping yourself in check. So here we go. The fingers, I'm not... it'd be very difficult for me to separate them anyway. But if I just accent them, if I just dig in a little bit between each one, it'll read as a separation, even if the separation doesn't exist. Yeah, I'm wary of them feeling too bendy. You know, that's a real danger. You know, I mean, all I'm interested in really is in the fingers is the bones. You know, they must be what, 95% bone or something, maybe less than that. But still, that's really what we're describing. And the bones are kind of like the bones of the finger are kind of like a cartoon bone that you draw. You know, with the two like spheres at the end, the kind of the kind of bone that I don't know, they'd hit some with in the Flintstones or something like that. That bone, that's pretty much the fingers. So, you know, on the finger joints, you have these two, you know, kind of like a peanut. You have these two bumps, and that's always something that I'm looking for if the hand is of importance in the sculpt. You know, it'll be especially noticeable if on a clenched fist or something like that. And you can find it more so in you know, a lot of classical sculptures, because those guys were looking for those things as well. Same with the toes, similar sort of bony structure. So that's the real advantage of studying those things, because those guys already did the legwork. Really, you know, they found these bony points and found what it was they wanted to accentuate, what it was they wanted to, what patterns they found in life that they wanted to reproduce. And you know, if you don't study that and you're only studying from life, you're learning a lot, but you're having to reinvent the wheel. Go back to those guys, see how they simplified things, see what things they found important, and see if that lines up for you. See if you also find those things important. You know, maybe you don't. That's fine. You don't have to agree with everything, but you know, at least take the time to look. Yeah, this is nonsense when I'm doing sculpting on the bottom of the foot. You know, God knows why I'm doing it. You know, that's an overhang from, you know, from working on productions, I guess. But here, just you know, just trying to find the bones, trying to find the rhythms, the rhythm of these toes as they sweep around. What shapes they make. You know, like the middle toe, the toe next to the big toe, I've got as the biggest one. I don't know if it was on the model, but you know, generally I'll make it as the biggest one because it breaks that curve from the big toe to the little toe. You know, you can have it just as one arc, but if you have the middle toe longest, you get you know, almost two. You get a more undulating rhythm, and you'll see. You know, Greek, Roman, Renaissance art, it's nearly always that big toe is the longest. So yeah, there's bony points in the toes themselves, and then also study from like say the outer edge of the foot, where you've got the bones that lead up to the little toe. You know, there's bony points there as well. There's one, you know, about halfway in the middle of the foot. I'm sure it has a name. They all have names, but I don't remember. But yeah, it's not, you know, it's not just the it's just not the it's not just the toes that have these bony landmarks. Of course, you've got the ankles, and then you know the heel is essentially, you know, that's the calcaneus, which is a large bone of the foot. So very bony structure. Yeah, there just then that was me nudging in that bony point halfway along the outside of the foot. Yeah, kind of a struggle here. You know, like the bend is so extreme, and you know you really want to avoid the you know, in CG we have a tendency, certainly once things are rigged and moving, that joints can feel like rubber hoses when they're bent. That's a lack of skeletal structure that causes that. So that's why we always want to be aware of it. And with such an extreme bend like she has in the toes here, that's one thing I'm fighting against. And I don't think even by the end of the sculpt I've properly nailed it. It's just something that would take time to study, and probably if I'd been more diligent when I actually had the model, I could have resolved it more easily. Yeah, just pushing that big toe in. The hands and the feet, both the fingers and the toes. If you put your fingers together on your hand, and you look at your feet, you'll notice that the big toe I'll ignore the thumb or your index finger. They lean in towards the center of the hand, and your little toe and your little finger also lean in towards the center of the hand. So you have these two curves that come together towards the middle. Yeah, that's something I'm always looking for, in the hands and the feet especially, because the hands you lose that as soon as the fingers are doing whatever crazy thing they might be doing. They're very there's a huge range of motion there, but the toes you have less motion. So look at the little toe curling in, and also the big toe curling in. So they sort of face each other in a way, or they're leaning towards each other, I'd say. Yeah, that foot on the standing leg looks massive. I do fix that at some point, I'm sure. Yeah, excuse me. Just accentuating the bony point of the hip there. Like I said in the previous video, this is something I'm always looking for. And if I'm just, here I'm calling the sculpt finished, even though it's not even close to finished for an actual finished sculpture. But I'm calling it finished, and as part of that, the final pass that I'll do, it's just going back over that stuff, making sure the big rhythms make sense, because in working digitally, I can still change that quite easily. It'd be more difficult in clay and impossible in marble or something. And then going over all these bony points and just all these transitions. Do I have a transition that's too sharp? Does a transition from muscle to fat or from muscle to tendon, is that feeling too sharp? Is that feeling like a bone? In which case I'll soften that out. Or is the bone not reading like a bone? All of this sort of stuff. But it's just as long as you've got the main things worked out, then you literally just go through at the end and you add in these little points, these little accents, and they bring the sculpture to life. Here you can see how I'm drawing in first, making sure that makes sense, and then sculpting it up. Just finding the lateral condyle of the femur there, and then also the lateral condyle of the tibia. Bit of separation between those two. I mean, the thing is, at this point, you could isolate any area of the sculpture and go, does it work? And it kind of does, and it kind of doesn't. If I was to take this to a finished resolution, it's nothing changes really. I just keep on doing the same thing. I just keep on going round and round, and I keep on looking for the same things, and I keep on refining them. But always in my mind going back to to the things that I've been harping on about this whole video, these big rhythms and the skeletal structure and stuff like that, to keep it fresh. I don't want it to feel stale. Here's where the arm's pressed against the breast and things like that, and at that point there's an area that I feel works nicely without having, I haven't carved in a big line to separate the two. I've just let them merge into each other, and why not? For me, I love this idea of a lost and found line. So in areas you can lose it completely, and then you find it again, and it's it's a little adventure for the eye, I guess. It looks like my time is running out here. I guess we're pretty much done. So so thank you so much if you've watched the whole thing, and even if you haven't, then I hope you've got something out of it. Please drop me a line or something in terms of feedback, in terms of improving these sorts of tutorials in the future. And yeah, best of luck with your own stuff. Yeah, thanks very much. Cheers.